In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to improve your FPS and lower your input delay in Fortnite Season 8. Now, I want to make sure everybody can easily understand what I'm going to cover, so I'm not going to be diving too deep into PC optimization. With that being said though, everything I cover is super important, so make sure to watch until the end of the video before clicking off. Now, let's get right into today's video. Alright, so first of all guys, we're going to start right here on our desktop, and we're going to Chrome down here, and we're going to type in update. We're going to go here and we're going to start checking for updates. Oftentimes if you guys are getting bad FPS, it might be because you're on not the latest Windows update. Most of the time the latest Windows update is going to be the best one for your PC. So go ahead, check for update. As you can see, I'm up to date, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. The next thing we're going to do is actually come over here and type in settings. Once we're in settings, we're going to come over here to the system settings. We're going to drop down here to where it says notification and actions. Then we're going to turn notifications off because notifications will drastically reduce your FPS by at least 30. So turning that off helps out a lot. The next thing we're going to do is turn focus assist off. Focus assist is something that you do not need to play Fortnite, so why have it on? Then we're going to go over here to storage, and we're going to make sure we have freed up storage. You can tell if you have extra storage based on if you have temporary files. How to clear your temporary files, as you guys can see here, is you can come click on that, and what we're going to do once it's done loading, we're going to click on recycling bag. As you can see here, I have 12 gigs that are just sitting in my recycling bag, so I'm going to turn those off. Everything else I recommend leaving. Just make sure that you have recycling bag on, and then we're going to hit remove files, and that's going to clean up 15 gigs of storage, which is really good. Because if you guys don't know this or not, when it comes to playing Fortnite, you need a lot of extra storage, because the more storage you have, the less your PC has to look around for those files that run Fortnite. So if you have extra storage and less files on your PC, it'll drastically improve your input delay, and you'll get nearly no input delay. Alright, so now that we're done deleting all of those temporary files, we've cleared up a lot of space, and originally I had 30 gigs of space. Now I have 50 gigs of extra free space. That's going to drastically reduce my input delay. Now we're going to come over here to multitasking, and we're going to turn that off because it actually decreases your FPS, because it's going to try to do things like snap windows and your timeline. It's going to suggest things on there, and you don't want that because that decreases your FPS. Alright, so now we're done with our system settings. What we're going to do is go over here to gaming, and we're going to make sure that we have Xbox Game Bar off. This is because Xbox Game Bar is a recording feature, and we do not want anything recording because that takes up our RAM, and Fortnite is very RAM intensive. Then we're going to come down here to captures and make sure we have background recording off and recording audio off too. Now we're going to come over to game mode, and we're actually going to turn game mode on. This is because when game mode is on, Windows optimize your PC for play. So it goes the extra step for your performance, and honestly I think game mode is really good when it comes to Fortnite. Alright guys, so now we're done with all the settings. What we're going to do is next we're going to optimize our Nvidia control panel. So what you have to do is just right click right here on screen, and it comes up. It's going to come up like that, and the first thing we're going to do is come over here to adjust image settings with preview. We're going to make sure we hit use the advanced 3D image setting. Then we're going to come over here to manage 3D settings, and what I want you guys to do is just copy all the settings I use. So we're going to have sharpening off, scaling disabled. Then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things we're going to have off. We're going to do none. We're going to do off. We're going to do background max frame rate off. Now when it comes to Coda GPUs, we're going to turn that on because Coda is really good for Nvidia GPUs. So just make sure you have that on all. We're going to do DSR factors off, smoothness off, low latency. This is a really big one. We're going to turn that on to ultra because that will give you the best latency. We do max frame rate off, multiple frame rate sampled AI off, rendering GPU, make sure that's selected on your GPU. Just make sure you have your specific dedicated GPU and not a CPU. Then we're going to do power management mode, prefer maximum performance. This is super important when it comes to FPS. And after your power control, refresh rate, we're going to do application control. This is going to allow you to control your refresh rate. Then shader cache on, texture filling filtering on, texture filtering negative, allow, texture filtering quality. This is another big one. Put it on high performance. This will get you much better input delay and FPS. High performance right there. Then texture filtering trilinear optimization on, threaded optimization off, triple buffering off, vertical sync off, virtual reality, render frames 1. That's the optimal, is just 1. And then virtual reality variable rate super saver off. And then all you have to do after that is come down here and hit apply to make sure all the settings are saved. It's going to take a second to load, and then you're done. The next thing in our Nvidia is going to come over here. We're going to go over here to set physics configuration, and we're going to make sure that our GPU is selected and not your CPU, because Fortnite is very CPU based, so we do not want to select our CPU when it comes to our physics, because we want our GPU to help out our CPU. Then we're going to come over here to change resolution. We're going to make sure your refresh rate is selected. As you can see here, the default select refresh rate for my monitor is 120, but my max refresh rate is 165. This means if I played on the default, I would be missing out on 60 extra hertz, which is super useful in Fortnite. Then just hit apply and hit yes. Make sure you're playing on native resolution too, because this is what's going to work best for 90% of monitors. And that's it for that, guys. Now we're going to move on to our GeForce settings. Over here, just go down to the bottom, type in GeForce. If you have a Nvidia GPU, which I'm guessing you do, it's going to come up like this, and all you have to do is come over here to drivers and just check for updates. Now you guys see that I have a new driver I need to download. I'm going to go ahead and download that, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and skip that. Alright guys, so now we're done with our default settings on our PC. We're going to go ahead and open the game now, and we're going to get right into that. Alright, so now that we're in our game, the first thing I'm going to do is pull up the GeForce Shadow Play feature, and all you have to do with that is hit Alt and Z or Z. And that's going to pull up this screen here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to our instant replay settings, click that, and we're going to make sure that we have it on 30-second intervals here. This is because you can go even down to 15 seconds if you want, and this is because when you're using a recording capture feature like this, it's going to use a lot of your RAM to actually record while you're playing. So the lowest you put it on is going to give you much less input delay when it comes to Fortnite. We're also going to make sure that we're on 1080p. We don't want anything higher than that because it's going to kill your CPU, and we want to put it on 60 FPS because 30 FPS is terrible. And we're just going to hit save, and then we're going to turn them on, and that's all good with that. Now let's get right into the actual in-game settings. So come over here to your settings. We want to make sure we're on full screen. We're going to be on 1980 by 1080 or 16 by 9, and we're going to put our FPS to standards above what we can what our actual monitor hertz is on. That's because after this video is done, you guys are going to be able to cap your FPS way above where you actually sit at on your hertz, and this is because doing this gives you much less input delay, and that's because the more frames you get, the less input delay it works. That's just how input delay works. The graphic controls don't really matter. And then we're going to come here, 3D resolution on 100%, view distance on near, and we're going to do textures on medium. We don't want textures on completely low because textures is based on your GPU, and like I said earlier, your Fortnite is a CPU based game, and we want our GPU to help our CPU out a little bit. Don't put it on high though, because that will kill your CPU. Medium is the perfect middle ground. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn auto download high textures off, and then we're going to do high resolution texture reminders off as well. This is a new setting that Fortnite added, and it kills your FPS, so we're going to turn those off. Then we're going to play on low meshes. Low meshes is so good when it comes to input delay. A lot of tier 1 pros like Muzz, Booga, other pros too are switching to low meshes even when they have a 3090 and an i9 CPU. Like, they have god PCs and they're still playing on low meshes because it gives way better input delay. Then for advanced graphics, turn VSync off. VSync only works with some monitors, and most of the time it causes screen tearing with monitors that don't have it, so make sure that's off. Show FPS on, and then rendering mode is going to be performance mode. If you're not playing on performance mode in season 8, you're at a massive disadvantage, so you guys need to make sure you're playing on performance mode. Now I'm just going to go into creative and I'm just going to check out my FPS and my input delay to show you guys how much FPS I actually get. Alright guys, so I'm on my own creative world here, and as you guys can see, when I look up completely at the sky, let me turn my FPS refresh rate on unlimited. And as you guys can see here, I'm reaching upwards to 500 FPS, getting constant 300 to 500 FPS when looking straight up. And my input delay is right about 6 milliseconds, which is insane. And before you guys say, oh Kool-Aid, you have a God PC, that's just not true. I literally play on a gaming laptop. Like, I'm not playing on an actual PC, I'm playing on an actual laptop. And if you guys are interested, you should go watch my setup review video.